Hello and welcome back to another day of summer learning. Today we're learning something a little different. We're still dealing with fractions, but we're seeing fractions as decimals and decimals as fractions and how they go together. And I know a lot of you are probably thinking decimals and fractions are not the same thing. This doesn't make any sense. I'm going to show you how it makes sense, so no worries. I went ahead and labeled ahead of time 1 and 2 for the different models you're going to be seeing so you know which one I'm referring to. Now, y'all see these models and you're like, oh, that's 100 base 10 block. So 100. No. Notice it's shaded and we're talking about decimals and fractions. And it's not completely shaded, so that tells me it is not a whole number. Now, these shadings within every single tiny little block that's in this 100 base 10 block, this is what it represents. Let's say only one of them is shaded. Okay, we're going to pick this one. That is saying I have 1 out of 100 base 10 tiny little blocks within this 100 shaded. So 1 out of 100 is shaded with this red dot. Now, do you really want to sit here and count 1 by 1 by 1 by 1? No, you don't, because even I, Mrs. G, a teacher and an adult, will sometimes miscount. So I love going back to skip counting. And for our second model, label number 2, this is showing how we can skip count instead of getting all confused and trying to figure out what number I left off on. So I know each row is 10 and they look like the base 10 blocks that are just 10s. So of course I'm going to skip count by 10. So 10, 20, 30, 40. I can't do it for 50 because it's not completely filled in. I have the tiny little dots. So I'm going to count individually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I have 48. Okay, awesome. So I have 4 tens and 8 hundreds. Now, you're not going to say it like that. You're not going to say, oh, I have 4 tenths and 8 hundredths. That is not how you say decimals. Now, they broke it up for us saying, oh, yeah, you have 4 tenths and you have 8 hundredths. But we need to put it together because that's not how you say it, and you're not going to have 2 decimals for one number. It doesn't make any sense. So this is how you're going to lay it out. You have 4 tenths, because we know behind the decimal you have your first place value, which is tenths, and you have 8 hundredths. So you're going to put your 8 in the hundredths place value. That is also behind the decimal place. I like to put a placeholder to tell me there is no holes. You don't have to. I just personally like to do it, and it's nice to get in the habit of knowing what placeholders are and being comfortable with them. So it's totally up to you. It's your choice to do it or not. Now, how I'm going to say this, it's not going to sound crazy. It's going to make sense. But there's this rule. You always say the last number with the last place value. So my 8, it's in the hundredths place value. So I need to make sure to say hundredths. I'm not going to say tenths because this 4 is not the last number in the last place value. So it's going to say 48 hundredths. Not 4 tenths, 8 hundredths, 48 hundredths. Now below we have a chart. This is great for notes. I highly suggest writing this down and keeping it as a note because they come in handy even in 5th grade. I even made my own students in 5th grade do this. With that being said, that should show you how important it is to have this note because you're not just dealing with whole numbers. You're dealing with numbers that are behind the decimal that are not known as whole numbers. So today, for your assignment, you're going to make your own. and you're going to just kind of like fill in the blanks. And this would be just great practice for you and for me to see that you understand the place value. So they give us a couple little steps. And the first one says, say the whole number part as if there is one, or if there is one. For this example, they gave us one. So there is 2 wholes. You can think of this as money, 2 whole dollar bills. Then for the decimal, you're going to say and. When you see a money sign, it's usually like 5.99. That's exactly how you're going to say it. You're not just going to come up to somebody and go, hey, that's $599. No, it's not. No. There's a decimal point in there and it's going to become an and. The reason I stress this is because a lot of people don't realize this and is a decimal point. Because, for example, Mr. G is not going to come up to me and say, hey, Mrs. G, I really want to get a new pair of shoes and it costs $263. I'm going to look at him crazy because I'm thinking he wants to buy these shoes that are $263. But if he came up to me and said, hey, Mrs. G, I really want to buy these new shoes and they're $6.63. Then I'm like, oh, okay, you want to buy some $6 shoes with some extra change. That's completely fine. That is why it is extremely important to make sure your decimal point when you're speaking becomes an and. Number 3, say the part less than 1 as a whole number. Okay, all they're saying for this one is behind the decimal point, you're going to say this number as it is. So it's 48, but that's not it. Our next rule is say the place value name of the last digit. Our last digit is an 8 and it's in the hundredths place. So I'm going to say 48 hundredths. If it was just a 4 in the tenths, just like we're going to cross this out and we're going to practice with this one. I have 2 and 4 tenths. That's if the 8 is not in the hundredths, okay? But it is in this example and they lay it all out for you. And this is how you're going to say it. 2 and 48 hundredths. Okay, so we're going to practice that today. Go ahead, look into your assignment. It's easy peasy, quick, and straight to the point. And I hope to see you there.